Friends, I want to talk today about something powerful and transformative. It's about the belief that every challenge, every trial, and every moment of uncertainty that you face, whether you see it now or not, is part of a bigger story. It's about the idea that God is using these moments to lead you toward your purpose, to help you step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. But this journey, let me tell you, is not about perfection. It's about showing up as your authentic self, embracing your vulnerability, and trusting that this path, no matter how winding or difficult, is leading you somewhere beautiful. Embracing the vulnerability of the unknown is one of the most profound acts of courage you can take. It's easy to want certainty, to seek out clear answers, and to avoid the discomfort that comes with uncertainty. But if we're honest, life doesn't always provide clear maps. The journey toward our purpose is often filled with twists, turns, and blind spots. It's in the midst of this unknown terrain that we are called to grow, to evolve, and to discover what we're truly capable of. Vulnerability, by its very nature, is uncomfortable. It asks us to step outside of what feels safe and predictable and into the realm of the uncertain. When we're faced with unknowns, we often feel exposed, unsure, and even powerless. We can't control the outcome, and that can feel incredibly scary. But the truth is, it's through vulnerability that we begin to experience real transformation. The unknown is not a place to avoid, it's a place to enter fully, with an open heart and a willingness to learn. Think about the moments in your life when you've had to step into the unknown. Maybe it was a career change, a new relationship, or a life transition. In those moments, you probably didn't have all the answers. You didn't know what the future would look like, and yet you still took a step forward. That was vulnerability in action. It was also a sign of faith. When you choose to embrace the unknown, you are choosing to trust that something greater is guiding you, even when the path isn't clear. And trust, in its essence, is vulnerable. It's admitting that we don't have control, but that doesn't mean we can't trust that things are unfolding as they should. What makes the vulnerability of the unknown so powerful is that it opens us up to new possibilities. If you always stay in your comfort zone, you're limiting yourself to what's familiar. But when you venture into unfamiliar territory, you make space for new experiences, new ideas, and new growth. It's in these unknown spaces that our greatest potential often lies. The life we are meant to live doesn't exist in the comfort of certainty. It exists in the daring steps we take into uncertainty. One of the most important things we can do when facing the unknown is to reframe how we view vulnerability. Instead of seeing it as weakness or something to be feared, we can begin to view it as strength. Vulnerability doesn't mean we're broken. It means we're open to learning, growing, and experiencing the fullness of life. It's in our willingness to be vulnerable that we find connection with others, with ourselves, and with the divine. The unknown doesn't have to be something to fear. It can be something to embrace with curiosity and hope. As you step into the unknown, there's also an important lesson about letting go of perfectionism. The idea that everything must unfold according to a specific plan or timeline can keep us stuck. Perfectionism convinces us that we need to have everything figured out before we act. But the reality is, life isn't perfect, and there is no perfect time to take risks. There is only now. When we let go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves to be vulnerable in the face of uncertainty. We open ourselves to experience life more fully without the burden of trying to get everything right. When we embrace the vulnerability of the unknown, we also learn to trust ourselves more deeply. There is a wisdom inside of each of us that is often drowned out by our fears and anxieties. But when we take the leap into uncertainty, we begin to hear that wisdom more clearly. We learn that we are stronger than we think, more capable than we imagine, and more resilient than we ever knew. Each time we step into the unknown, we build our confidence and trust in ourselves and the process of life. So the next time you find yourself standing at the edge of the unknown, remember that vulnerability isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's the key to unlocking new possibilities, finding your true purpose, and connecting with the deepest parts of yourself. Trust that, even in the uncertainty, you are being guided. And know that every step you take, even if it's into the unknown, is leading you exactly where you need to be. Trusting the process, especially when you can't see the end, is one of the most challenging yet profound acts of faith and growth. We live in a world that craves instant results and clear, visible outcomes. We want to know exactly how things will unfold, when they will unfold, and what the final destination will look like. But life, and especially the journey toward our purpose, rarely works that way. The process of growth, transformation, and self-discovery is often messy, nonlinear, and uncertain. It's in these moments when we can't see the end that we are asked to trust in the process itself, in the unseen steps, and in the belief that everything is unfolding as it should. It's human nature to want control. We want to know that the path we are walking is leading us to something meaningful. We want a map, a timeline, a clear blueprint for our lives. But the truth is, life doesn't always provide those clear markers. The process often feels like walking in the dark, step by step, not knowing what's around the corner. We can't always predict what's coming, and that uncertainty can bring up feelings of doubt, fear, and frustration. In these moments, it's tempting to give up, to try to force outcomes, or to abandon the process entirely. But that's when trust becomes most important. Trusting the process means surrendering to the idea that we don't need to know everything in advance. It's about believing that the unfolding of our lives, even when it feels confusing or uncertain, is part of a greater design. Even if we can't see the end, we can trust that each step, each challenge, and each success is contributing to the bigger picture. It's like planting a seed in the ground. You can't see the roots growing beneath the surface, but you trust that they are forming, strengthening, and preparing for the eventual bloom. The process is just as important as the destination, and sometimes it's through the process that we gain the clarity we need. One of the most difficult aspects of trusting the process is that it often requires us to let go of our need for control. It means relinquishing the idea that we can control every outcome, every moment, and every detail. Control can feel comforting, but it's also limiting. When we're overly focused on controlling every aspect of the process, we miss out on the lessons that come from uncertainty. We miss the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to be shaped by experiences that challenge us. Trusting the process is about having the faith to move forward, even when we don't have all the answers. There will be times when you question the direction you're heading. There will be moments when things feel uncertain, when obstacles seem insurmountable, and when the finish line feels too far away. In these moments, it's important to remember that the process is not linear. It's not always a straight line from point A to point B. There are hills and valleys, setbacks and breakthroughs, but every part of the journey, even the hard parts, is contributing to your growth. You are being shaped and prepared for something greater, even if you can't see it yet. The beauty of trusting the process is that it invites us to be present. When we focus solely on the end result, we miss the richness of the journey itself. We forget that the process is where the real transformation happens. It's where we build resilience, discover our strengths, and learn important lessons. It's where we develop the character and wisdom that will carry us to our purpose. When we trust the process, we give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to learn from those mistakes without the pressure to have everything figured out. It's also important to remember that trusting the process doesn't mean we don't take action. It doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It means showing up, doing the work, and being consistent even when the results aren't immediate. It means having faith in the small steps, the everyday efforts, and the quiet progress that often goes unnoticed. Trusting the process means continuing to move forward, even when the finish line is out of sight, knowing that every step is bringing us closer to the person we are meant to become. In the end, trusting the process is an act of surrender. It's trusting that the journey, with all its ups and downs, is leading us to exactly where we need to be. It's about having faith that even when we can't see the end, the path we are on is unfolding as it should. And when we can let go of the need for certainty and control, we create space for real growth, transformation, and purpose to emerge. So trust the process, because even when the end isn't clear, the journey itself is a powerful force shaping your life in ways you might not fully understand yet. Owning your story, including the struggles, is an essential part of personal growth and healing. It's easy to want to hide the parts of our story that feel painful, embarrassing, or shameful. We often think that the parts of our lives that haven't gone as planned, the struggles, the failures, the moments we feel weakest, are the parts we should bury, ignore, or even deny. But the truth is, it's only when we own all of our story, including the struggles, that we can fully step into our power and purpose. Our story, with all its ups and downs, shapes who we are and who we are becoming. There is a common misconception that in order to be worthy of success, happiness, or even love, we must have a perfect story. We want to present the best version of ourselves to the world, one that is successful, put together, and free from flaws. We edit our lives, choosing what to show and what to hide, often without realizing that the parts we keep hidden are the ones that could truly connect us to others. The truth is, we are all messy, imperfect, and complicated, and it's this messiness that makes us human. By owning our struggles, we create space for vulnerability, for connection, and for real transformation. When we own our story, we stop pretending that our struggles don't matter. The reality is, our struggles are often the very things that teach us the most about ourselves. They are the experiences that mold us, strengthen us, and prepare us for the life we are meant to live. We learn more from failure than from success, more from our mistakes than from our achievements. If we hide these parts of our story, we deny ourselves the opportunity to learn and grow. But when we own our struggles, we give ourselves permission to be human. We stop believing the lie that we are somehow less worthy because we are not perfect, and instead we embrace the full, unedited version of ourselves. It's also important to remember that owning your story doesn't mean you have to share everything with everyone. It's about owning your narrative in your own heart first. It's about accepting your past, your mistakes, and the parts of your life that have been difficult without judgment or shame. When you own your story, you take back control. You stop letting your past define you in negative ways, and you start to see it as a teacher. Even the most painful chapters have value because they have shaped you into the person you are today. You are not your mistakes, your struggles, or your failures. You are the person who has risen above them, the person who has learned from them. Owning your story also means reframing how we see our struggles. Instead of viewing them as setbacks or something to be ashamed of, we can choose to see them as opportunities for growth. Struggles don't diminish us, they refine us. They give us the chance to build resilience, to discover strengths we didn't know we had, and to learn important life lessons. Each struggle is like a rough stone, and as we work through it, we chip away at the edges to reveal something more beautiful underneath. This process of growth is what makes us stronger, more compassionate, and more capable of living our purpose. One of the most powerful things about owning your story is that it allows you to connect with others on a deeper level. When we're honest about our struggles, we create space for others to do the same. We break down the walls of isolation and perfectionism and invite others into the messy, beautiful reality of being human. Our stories, with all their flaws and imperfections, have the power to heal, to inspire, and to bring us closer together. We are all on this journey together, and when we own our stories, we become more relatable, more empathetic, and more compassionate toward others. The truth is, no one has a perfect story. Everyone has faced challenges, dealt with pain, and encountered setbacks along the way. What matters is how we choose to view those struggles. When we own our story, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances. We stop feeling like we're broken or unworthy because of our past. Instead, we see ourselves as survivors, as warriors who have faced the hard things and come out stronger on the other side. Our struggles do not define us, they refine us. When you own your story, you stop hiding. You stop pretending to be someone you're not, and instead, you show up as your true, authentic self. You step into your power, knowing that everything you've been through has prepared you for the life you are meant to live. Your struggles are not the end of your story, they are part of the journey. They are the building blocks of who you are and who you are becoming. So embrace them. Own them, let them be the source of your strength and your wisdom, and know that your story, every chapter of it, is uniquely yours. Courage is one of the most misunderstood qualities we talk about, often seen as the absence of fear. We think that in order to be courageous, we must be fearless, as though bravery is defined by the complete lack of vulnerability or hesitation. But the truth is, courage is not about the absence of fear, it's about what we choose to do in the presence of fear. It's about showing up, taking action, and moving forward, even when the fear feels overwhelming and paralyzing. Fear is a natural human emotion. It's a part of life, and it is not something we can simply wish away. It arises in moments of uncertainty, in the face of the unknown, and during life-changing events. Fear serves an important purpose. It protects us, keeps us alert, and helps us navigate danger. But when fear becomes a barrier that stops us from pursuing our goals, living authentically, or stepping into our purpose, it can become a hindrance rather than a help. Courage, then, is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to feel it, to acknowledge it, and to move forward despite it. One of the reasons courage is so powerful is because it is rooted in vulnerability. To be courageous, we must first be willing to be vulnerable, to put ourselves in situations where we don't have all the answers, where things may not go as planned, and where the outcome is uncertain. This is where fear comes in: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment. It's in these moments that courage becomes necessary. We can choose to let fear paralyze us, or we can choose to feel the fear and act anyway. The act of moving forward in the face of fear is the essence of courage. In order to practice courage, we must also learn to embrace discomfort. Fear often arises in situations where we are stepping outside of our comfort zones. Whether it's taking a risk in our personal or professional life, opening up to others emotionally, or facing a difficult truth about ourselves, courage requires us to lean into discomfort and uncertainty. This is where many of us get stuck. We want to avoid discomfort, and as a result, we hold ourselves back. But growth happens in discomfort. Our purpose unfolds when we push past our comfort zones, when we do the things that scare us, and when we take action even when we don't feel ready. Courage also means accepting that we may fail along the way. Fear often holds us back because we fear failure, but failure is not the opposite of courage, it is a part of it. Failure is simply a lesson, a step on the path of growth. In fact, many of the most courageous people in the world are those who have failed, sometimes repeatedly, but have continued to rise, to try again, and to keep moving forward. Courage is not about being perfect, it's about being willing to show up, even when things don't go according to plan. It's about learning to trust that each failure is not a reflection of our worth, but a necessary part of the process. The willingness to move through fear also means choosing to trust ourselves. Fear often arises because we doubt our own abilities, our worth, or our capacity to handle the unknown. But courage requires self-trust, the belief that we are capable of navigating whatever comes our way. It's about trusting that even if we stumble or fall, we have the strength to get back up and keep going. When we trust ourselves, we empower ourselves to take action, despite the fear that may accompany it. Trusting ourselves means acknowledging that we have everything we need within us to face challenges and move through them. Another important aspect of courage is recognizing that it's not a one-time event, but a continuous practice. Every day, we are faced with opportunities to choose courage, to have the difficult conversation, to take the first step toward a new goal, to stand up for ourselves or others, to pursue something that scares us. Courage is not a trait that some people have and others don't. It is something we can cultivate and practice. Each small act of courage builds upon the next until we develop a resilience that allows us to face even bigger fears with confidence. When we move through fear, we also create a ripple effect. Our courage doesn't just impact us, it influences others as well. When we show up and act despite our fear, we inspire those around us to do the same. We give them permission to be vulnerable, to face their own fears, and to pursue their own growth. Courage is contagious. It creates a community of individuals who are willing to be vulnerable, to face their challenges, and to move forward together. Ultimately, courage is a choice. It is a decision to keep moving forward, even when the road is uncertain, even when fear is present, and even when we feel unprepared. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to act in spite of it. And by embracing that courage, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, new growth, and the fulfillment of our purpose. Letting go of perfectionism and embracing imperfection is one of the most liberating and transformative things we can do for ourselves. Perfectionism often masquerades as a desire for excellence or self-improvement, but in reality, it's a trap. It's a belief that if we don't do things flawlessly, we are somehow not good enough. Perfectionism binds us to an unrealistic standard that is nearly impossible to meet, and in doing so, robs us of our joy, creativity, and authenticity. Embracing imperfection, on the other hand, is about accepting ourselves as we are, with all our flaws, quirks, and mistakes. It's about recognizing that our worth isn't contingent on being perfect, but on being real and whole in all our imperfection. Perfectionism often stems from a deep fear of judgment or failure. We want to prove our worth, to show the world that we are capable, competent, and deserving of love and respect, but the pursuit of perfection often leads to self-doubt and anxiety. We constantly scrutinize our every move, fearing that any mistake will expose our inadequacy. This mindset keeps us stuck in a cycle of stress and self-criticism, where nothing ever feels good enough. The reality is, perfection doesn't exist in the way we think it does. What we view as perfect is often a creation of societal expectations, cultural norms, or the opinions of others. It's a moving target, and no matter how hard we strive, we can never reach it. Embracing imperfection means letting go of the need for external validation. It means recognizing that we are enough, just as we are, and that our value is not defined by how perfectly we perform or how others perceive us. Imperfection is not a flaw, it's a fundamental part of being human. When we embrace our imperfections, we free ourselves from the tyranny of perfectionism. We allow ourselves to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow without the constant pressure to be flawless. It's through our imperfections that we truly connect with others, because we are no longer hiding behind a facade of perfection. Instead, we show up as our authentic selves, vulnerable and open to the world. Letting go of perfectionism also allows us to cultivate creativity and innovation. When we're fixated on doing things perfectly, we limit our ability to experiment, take risks, and explore new ideas. Creativity thrives in the space of imperfection, where we are free to make mistakes and learn from them. Many of the greatest inventions, discoveries, and works of art were born from trial and error, from stepping outside of the confines of perfectionism and embracing the unknown. When we let go of the pressure to be perfect, we give ourselves the freedom to try new things, to fail, and to try again. This is how we evolve, both as individuals and as a society. Imperfection is not a barrier to success, it's an essential part of the process. There is also a deep power in embracing imperfection because it allows us to be kinder to ourselves. Perfectionism often leads to harsh self-judgment, where we are constantly measuring ourselves against an impossible standard. But when we embrace imperfection, we begin to practice self-compassion. We recognize that we are human, and part of being human is being imperfect. We don't expect ourselves to be flawless, and we understand that mistakes are opportunities for growth, not evidence of our inadequacy. Self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. When we embrace imperfection, we create space for grace and acceptance, both for ourselves and for others. Moreover, embracing imperfection helps us to foster deeper, more authentic relationships with others. Perfectionism can create a sense of isolation as we hide behind a polished, idealized version of ourselves, afraid of showing vulnerability or flaws. But when we embrace imperfection, we invite others to do the same. We create an environment where honesty, vulnerability, and authenticity can flourish. When we let go of the need to be perfect, we create stronger, more meaningful connections with the people around us. We realize that it's not our flawless performance that makes us lovable, it's our humanity. By embracing imperfection, we allow ourselves to be seen and loved for who we truly are, not for some idealized version of ourselves. Letting go of perfectionism also means letting go of control. Perfectionism is often a response to a fear of uncertainty or failure. We try to control every aspect of our lives in the hopes that if we can just get everything right, things will go smoothly. But the reality is, life is unpredictable. Things don't always go as planned, and we can't control every outcome. Embracing imperfection means accepting the ebb and flow of life, trusting that even when things don't go according to plan, we can learn and grow from the experience. It's in the moments of imperfection that we often discover our greatest strength and resilience. The beauty of embracing imperfection is that it allows us to live more fully. We stop waiting for the perfect moment to take action or pursue our dreams. We stop letting fear of failure hold us back. Instead, we take imperfect action, knowing that each step, each effort, and each mistake brings us closer to the person we are meant to be. Perfectionism keeps us stuck, while embracing imperfection propels us forward, allowing us to live with more freedom, creativity, and joy. In the end, it's not perfection that leads to fulfillment, it's the willingness to embrace the journey with all its imperfections and trust that we are enough, just as we are. The idea that you are enough, just as you are, is a powerful affirmation that has the potential to change the way we view ourselves and our worth. In a world that constantly tells us we need to be more successful, more beautiful, more accomplished, more perfect, it can be difficult to internalize this truth. Yet the reality is that you, in all your uniqueness, with all your flaws and imperfections, are already enough. You don't need to prove your worth or change who you are to fit someone else's idea of what's desirable or valuable. Your inherent value is not determined by external standards, but by the simple fact that you exist. The pressure to be more comes from many sources: societal expectations, social media, the people around us, and sometimes even our own internal voices. We live in a culture that celebrates achievements, appearances, and accomplishments, often at the expense of our well-being and sense of self-worth. We're conditioned to measure our worth against what we have, what we do, or how we look. But the truth is, none of these external factors define your worth. The notion that you need to achieve something or be someone else in order to feel valuable is a lie. You are valuable right now in this moment just as you are. This message is about embracing the beauty of imperfection. We are all imperfect beings, and that's what makes us human. Perfectionism is an illusion that sets us up for disappointment and dissatisfaction. It keeps us chasing an unattainable ideal while ignoring the beauty of our authentic selves. We often overlook the small victories and personal growth we experience because we are too focused on what we haven't yet achieved or what we think is lacking. The truth is, every step you take, every moment of growth, and every struggle you overcome contributes to the person you are becoming. This process of becoming is the essence of being enough. Owning the truth that you are enough doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive for growth, improvement, or success. It means that you can pursue these things from a place of self-acceptance, not from a place of self-criticism or the need to prove something. When you acknowledge that you are already enough, you release the pressure to be perfect and can focus on doing what brings you joy and fulfillment, without the constant weight of comparison or self-doubt. You pursue your goals not to prove your worth, but because you are worthy of living a life that feels meaningful to you. It's also important to recognize that your worth isn't contingent on the approval or validation of others. We often seek external validation to feel good about ourselves, but true fulfillment comes from within. You don't need someone else's affirmation to validate your existence or your worth. The only approval you need is your own. When you fully accept that you are enough, you stop relying on others to define who you are. This doesn't mean that you stop caring about others or their opinions. It simply means that your sense of self-worth no longer depends on them. You have an inner strength and belief in your value that comes from within. Accepting that you are enough also means embracing your flaws and mistakes. It's easy to focus on what we don't like about ourselves, the things we wish we could change, or the parts of our personality or appearance that we find lacking. However, These imperfections don't make you less than anyone else. They make you unique, and they are part of what makes you who you are. Every flaw, every mistake, every struggle is a part of your story. When you embrace these imperfections, you allow yourself to be fully human, free from the burden of unrealistic expectations and the fear of judgment. You start to see that your flaws don't diminish your value, they add depth and complexity to your character. They are the things that make you relatable and connect you to others. There is a deep freedom that comes from accepting yourself as you are. When you stop trying to be someone else, when you stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards, you open up space for self-compassion and peace. You allow yourself to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to grow without the constant need to prove something. You also open yourself up to the possibility of authentic relationships. When you stop pretending to be perfect and allow yourself to be vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. This creates deeper, more meaningful connections because you are relating to others from a place of truth rather than from a place of performance. One of the most powerful aspects of recognizing that you are enough is that it frees you from the constant pressure of comparison. In a world where we are bombarded with images of success, beauty, and achievement, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. Social media, in particular, amplifies this tendency, showcasing only the highlights of other people's lives while we often feel like we are falling short. But comparison is a thief. It steals your joy and robs you of your peace. When you know that you are enough, you no longer need to measure your success, beauty, or worth against someone else's. You celebrate your own unique journey, knowing that you are on your own path, and that path is just as valid and valuable as anyone else's. At the heart of it, accepting that you are enough means choosing self-love. It means recognizing that you are worthy of kindness, compassion, and respect, no matter what you've done or haven't done. You are worthy simply because you exist. You don't need to earn your worth or wait for someone to confirm it. You are enough right now. When you embrace this truth, it changes everything. It changes how you treat yourself, how you relate to others, and how you approach life. You become free to live authentically, pursue your dreams, and show up in the world with confidence and grace. In the end, the most powerful thing you can do is to stop searching for validation outside of yourself and start recognizing that you are enough, just as you are. This doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. It means you embrace your current self with love, compassion, and acceptance. You are worthy. You are enough, always.